brought to you almost live from the Dude in the Basement studios. Why? Because that's where the good stuff is. It's Sips, Suds, and Smokes with your smoking host, the good old boys. Suds, suds, suds. It's time for more suds.
And the crowd goes nuts. Welcome to this episode of Sips, Suds, and Smokes. I'm one of your hosts today, good old boy Mike, and joining me for this episode is Reverend Mark.
Hail to the brewers.
We are not so live in Denver, Colorado for the Great American Beer Festival. And we're so excited. I was almost hopping and skipping as we came off the plane, to be here. And with so many weeks of anticipation of coming to this, I'm so excited that we actually get to record here, while we're at the festival this week. And we have a lot of great stuff to talk about, even with 2 days we've had in advance of the show.
Yeah, the only thing that's been lacking this week is a pair of rollerblades just to keep me going from one opportunity to the next, one bar to the next, up and down the road. It's just a wonderful. The venues around the convention center, not only in Denver but in Boulder and up in Fort Collins, just been amazing.
It really has been. I mean, this is truly beer geek heaven, and I talked a little bit saying this almost felt like a pilgrimage. The only thing that was missing from this Hod was a giant keg of beer in the middle that we all circled around, in a counterclockwise motion saying, hail to the beer gods. I mean, truly, it just so many really great products here in Denver right now. And we can't wait to talk about even some of the things we've had over the last couple of days. So we've had a few trips around town while we've been here, and I forgot to tell everybody a couple of things about our show. If you've never heard our show before, we talk about everything in life that's worth discussing, and we actually are going to rate some products today. And if you haven't listened to our show before, we have some ratings. Our Suds ratings are: number 1, that sucks, give me anything but a bud. Number 2, was that a belch? Number 3 is what a relief. Number 4 is a body should really not make that sound. And number 5 is listen to that hang time, give me another. And I'm proud to say I'm sitting here watching Reverend Mark wear one of our magical t-shirts today with our number 5 rating on it. So, and I've seen a couple of folks walking around, with these t-shirts, and we're going to give some away while we're here, at the festival as well. So I look forward to that. We've had a good time checking out a couple of venues and some really great beers. Our first stop was the Star Bar, which was was painted to us as a dive bar, but I didn't think it was that much of a dive. I thought it was actually a pretty nice place.
Very nice place. Nice little outer courtyard. Beautiful weather here, certainly that day, that afternoon, and extremely knowledgeable bar owner and staff. Yeah.
Lance and his staff were really great to us. We enjoyed dropping by and a great time to check out several beers while we were there, and several things that were not going to be at the fest for us to try. We'll probably talk about some of those beers here in a minute. But the interesting part was they don't serve food at Star Bar, and so his staff recommended that we head across the street over to Biker Jim's Dogs, which was, when you stared at the menu, it's like you didn't know if you were going to get bitten by something. Some really strange stuff there. So. Oh,
man. And that's where Andrew Bourdain goes when he's in Denver. So I said, got to do it.
I can't think of a greater proximity of unique cuisine and unique beers within 50 feet of each other. So the only thing that was missing from a reindeer dog were the antlers sticking out of it.
Yeah.
And I had the pheasant dog, which was actually a bunless dog, and I thought they were really fabulous. I would tell anybody to head back there. I really thought it was a great place. So from there, we ventured on down the street to Falling Rock, which is almost I would consider the unofficial bar for the GABF itself, and it was pretty packed, even that evening, wasn't it?
Yeah, and it again is set up where the front entrance, they can slide back some of the doors and the windows, and so you get a really nice breeze coming in, and it's like you're sitting in somebody's huge, sort of covered porch.
Yeah, it was. And I think the thing I was most impressed with was actually that they had a jug of water out there that everybody can enjoy and kind of getting used to, altitude here in Denver as well. But lots of great beer, and we'll actually talk about a couple of those here in a bit as well. The one thing that caught our attention was the weed. So, we were walking down the street and like people are smoking weed like every 50 feet. And it definitely caught your nose, didn't it?
Very much so, yeah. It was deja vu moment from the 70s.
Well, and I have people that, drop us a note and they're like, Mike, when is the smoke segment on weed going to be? And I, I've had a little difficulty thinking about how we're going to pull it off. But I would say that, doing it here in Denver at some point in time might be a good candidate. But yeah, that definitely there was a bit of a cultural shift for you and I walking around and seeing people just, smoking weed right there in the open.
Yeah, and we talked to one young woman who said that when her mother came, that now that even recreational smoking is completely legal, or at least is protected by the law, that people are allowed to smoke weed on the street, but if you're in a public area, you're told to put your cigarette out.
Please take your Marlboros and move back 50 feet away from the public venue. Hey, but if you got some weed, hey, could I have a hit of that? It's just crazy. That's really amazing. And even while we were just walking by one of the dispensaries and they were venting out in the sidewalk, and you could smell the weed right there on the sidewalk, just from the buds inside.
Right.
Just amazing.
Yeah, I see maybe next year's GABF they'll be randalizing some of that into a pale ale, so you never know.
Well, and I think about the thought of that, and part of me goes, please don't do that. And then there's a part of me going, that would be rather unique. I think I want to try that at least once, combining two recreational products, alongside each other like that would definitely be a bold experiment. Well, we survived the first day, and then we went out to a event at Hops and Pies, and we'll go through all of that event here in just a bit and talk about those beers and actually rate a few of the beers that we had. But they actually hosted an event where several of the beers that are not going to be again at GABF were there at Hops and Pies. So it was really great to catch up on some really great stuff that we wouldn't even be able to taste at the festival itself.
Right, and that's a really good reason for those of you listening who want to come here in the next year and in the future. Get here a day early or 2 days early, or stay over, but certainly on the front side of it, because again, that's where you're going to be able to sample things that are not even on tap at the festival itself, even though there are over 3,000 taps going at any one time.
Well, I loved our conversation heading over to Hops and Pies as well. So we dropped by and picked up our media credentials for the show, and because you got a brewer's goodie bag kit. I love the swag you got, which was what?
Yeah, it was a turbocharged nose trimmer. I loved it. Yeah,
which is like the strangest thing you would get in the swag bag. It's like, what happens if you're bald and have no beard? Where are you going to use that thing?
Well, but if you're a beer judge, and I am also a BJCP certified judge, you need to make sure your olfactory canal is working fine. You may have yeast crusted inside your nose.
A little nair up inside your nostril.
Yeah.
Oh my God! And then I thought, well, what are the women going to do with that? With the women brewers, they're going to look at that and go, "Oh, what am I supposed to do with this?"
Well, it's a small little beard trimmer too, and I know, like, my third grade teacher could have used it. So.
Well, we'll talk about her future, in a hairless world, at some other episode. But I just thought that was the strangest swag piece that I'd ever seen. So I was sitting there looking at it going, man, of all the things you would possibly get, that would be like not even on my top 50 list. It's crazy.
I'll put it to good use, though. Thanks for it. I appreciate that.
Look, Ma, look what they gave me at the GABF. I got my free nose hair trimmer. Well, in the afternoon, we headed up to Fort Collins and got to enjoy actually going to a couple of your favorite breweries. So we first went to New Belgium. Actually, went on a brewery tour while we were there.
Yeah, just got there, and they were leaving for one of the last tours of the day.
Yeah.
And so we tagged on.
So they actually introduced a new beer while we were there, which was a collaboration beer with Cigar City Brewing, which was a pale ale with like a jalapeno kick or some Anaheim chili
In Anaheim, yeah, right.
And we actually sat down and rated that beer on our Twitter feed. And if you want to check that out, you'll see all our tasting notes around that beer. And they plied us with all kinds of New Belgium beers. We were walking around the brewery itself. Very cool brewery.
Yeah, I mean, when you also hear the origin story, how the owner was in Belgium and decided to take an extended vacation at this one tap room that was very obscure, but had multiple beers on tap, and just was inspired, by the Belgian approach to brewing, which is not constrained by the Reinheitsgebot, which is the German purity law. So, Belgian beers can go in so many directions, and it's within, the style guidelines, because there are very few, if any, guidelines.
Well, the one thing that caught our attention was standing in the mash tun room, and they had the original mash tuns, that they used back in '91, sitting right in there next to the 100-barrel, units that were right there that were mash tuns as well. And you and I just had this really moment of inspiring of going, wow, look how far craft beer has come, in such a short period of time.
Yeah. And more and more of the beer market is going in the direction of craft beer. Very encouraged to hear that New Belgium as well as Sierra Nevada are going to be in Asheville, North Carolina, within operating within the next 2 to 3 years. So I mean it's used to be a West Coast thing, and now we're all in on this.
Definitely not. So we actually got to swing by Odell's, which is right beside New Belgium as well, to check out. They have a new patio out in their taste room. That's pretty cool, and they had a band out there too. Very cool setup. So you've had a couple of beers that really caught our attention over the last couple of days as well. So what's one of your favorite beers you've had so far?
Well, and since we're just talking about New Belgium, and it surprised me, but then didn't, as I thought about it, is that the Ranger, which is their IPA, it's just a basic beer, but whenever I buy Ranger in Nashville in the South, it's got a little bit of shelf life on it, and it just doesn't pop like it did yesterday. But we were told that we were consuming this beer at 5 p.m. and it had been bottled at 4. At 4.
Yeah, we were actually standing right there in the bottling plant when we had this, and I had some of the same reaction when a tour guide host was okay. So now we're going to pour some Ranger for you. And I've had it plenty of times, and I had some of the same lackluster moment. I was like, okay, do I really have to drink this? I've had it, so much. It's a good beer. I just, but then she picked it up, and somebody said, well, when was this bottled? And 4 p.m. And I was like, get out of my way. So, it's just like, yeah, okay, I want to try that. And you're right. There was a real difference, in the freshness of it as well. And
that's one of the main reasons why I am very reluctant to putting pale ales and IPAs that I do, as a home brewer, into competitions if it's not at least a week or two and no more than that old, because it's going to lose its aroma. And even the hop flavor and the bittering changes in the bottle just over a very short period of time.
So what would be your suds rating on the Ranger then?
The one yesterday, I'd give it a 5.
Well, a 5, yeah. Listen to the hang time. Give me another. Well, we've had some other really great beer, and I have to say that trip to Falling Rock definitely caught my attention. And you and I both had this beer, and I was sitting there swooning over this. I've had several Russian River beers, and they had Pliny Elder, and I know you had it that evening as well. But the one Russian River that I'd never had before that they had on tap was Damnation.
Yeah.
Wow. This was just such a fabulous beer. It was just so well balanced all the way around. It was creamy and light and balanced. The hop profile was very good. It had a light citrus note to it. It was just something that both you and I stared at and went, could we order this by the gallon? I mean, it was just, a really, really great beer. So my Sedge rating for Russian River and Damnation is also a 5 as well. Listen to that Hang Time, Give Me Another. And I couldn't say enough, good things about that beer. Well, we've had a couple of things that were not so good as well. And I know you and I both sat, and when we went to the Star Bar, one of the things that caught our attention was a Yeti beer from Great Divide. And it was a Belgian barrel-aged Yeti. And we were so thrilled at the prospect of enjoying this. And wow, they handed us the taster of this, and you and I both looked at each other like, are you sure you gave us the right beer? I mean, it was just, oh my God. I was like, wow, this is just so bad. And I kept on saying, wow, this sucks. Because it just really, really sucked. And
I think part of it too is that we each, and those of you out there who know, the Yeti legend, it's just, it's the bar is so high just to have that name. And so I think it's just that it just fell obviously so far short of our very high expectations.
Yeah.
It wasn't a spoiled beer. It wasn't that it was just garbage beer. It just
wasn't what we were thinking. Yeah. So my Sedge rating on that was definitely a 1. There's no doubt about it. And in fact, I would tell people to avoid it. But we're going to take just a quick breather here real quick and be right back to tell you about our trip to Hops and Pies. So welcome back. We got to take a trip out to Hops and Pies, which is a great bar here in Denver, and they have about 25 taps there. And they hosted this event that on this week that featured several products that were not going to be available at the GABF. A lot of brewers got shut out, for the festival itself, and a lot of key breweries are actually not going to be at the festival. And so it was really nice to be able to taste some things that we were not going to be able to get to at Hops and Pies. So I want to thank the brewers and Hops and Pies for hosting this event. And there were a lot of folks that definitely we caught their attention as we sat down because we ordered a full flight of nearly everything on tap. We didn't gather everything that was available. There were a couple of styles of things that we did not include in this tasting. But we enjoyed the company, especially the group from Dallas that was behind us, and I love the group and how they were talking about things they enjoyed, and a couple of our top picks were in their top picks as well, so that was kind of cool. But it was the lady next to me that we ordered a tray of roasted nuts, and they were like in a caramel sauce. We had a lot of fun with them. She said, "Can I touch your nuts?" And I said, "Sure, absolutely." So we had a lot of fun with them. I hope they're enjoying this show, and hopefully they'll have a good festival as well. Listen, we're going to go through our top 3 from these 20-plus beers that we had at Hops and Pies and rate our top 3. But we're not going to be able to go through all of these. If you want to look at our full tasting notes, you can look at our tasting notes that are posted on Twitter, as well as a couple of photos of our tasting sheets from the entire event as well. So you'll get to see all of our ratings and my really horrible handwriting as well. So, all right, so let's get around right to this event we had at Hops and Pies. So, which order you want to go in, from 1 to 3 or 3 to 1?
Let's go from 3 to 1.
3 to 1.
Yeah.
How about it? So, what was your number 3 pick then?
My number 3 pick was from a brewery that I got introduced to a couple of years ago when I was out for a wedding in Salt Lake City. Epic Brewery, and they're now just have opened also here in the Denver area. and in particular, it was their Big Bad Baptist Imperial Stout. They really do an amazing job, and as good old boy Mike and I have gone through many different kinds of brewery tours, they seemingly one and the same. But I would say this is one brewery that is sort of worth taking your time with. They completely build their water. They reverse osmosis, use an RO process, and rebuild their water, custom for each beer. But I like the title, I guess, part of it, but it was really the taste. It was just a layered, wonderful, decadent kind of aperitif quality beer, Imperial Stout. So, yeah, it was in the top three, and I'll give it, at least at this point, I'll say that it's my number 3.
And what was your rating, your SEDS rating?
Well, because we had so many yesterday, these are all 5, so I give it a 5.
A 5 for you on that. I had the Big Bad Baptist as well. This was my first epic beer that I got to try, and there were a lot of good stouts, in this flight that we got to taste. This happened to be the last beer in all of our flights. I might be guilty of a little bit of palate fatigue. But my rating for this was had a big chocolate taste to it, and my set rating for the Big Bad Baptist was a 2. Was that a belch? So what was your number 2 pick then?
From a brewery in Austin, Texas, Jester King, is called the Witchmaker Rye IPA, and what really made it even more compelling in terms of its taste and its appearance. It's beautiful amber-colored farmhouse rye IPA. So it had a little of that kind of funkiness going on, but not so much. And it was dry and had that rye spiciness. Maybe it was because of where it was also in the flight. Sometimes that really sort of tilts my approval meter a little bit if it's something different, and kind of also works as a little bit of a palate cleanser. But whatever it was, I thought it was very nice, and I'm looking to pick up some of this somewhere.
So your SEDS rating for this is?
I'll give it a 5.
5 as well. Well, I really enjoyed this beer as well, and it made my top 3. It was my number 3 pick, so I'll just talk about it now as well. My tasting notes around this were pretty simple. Me likey, well balanced. This was my first Jester King beers as well. There were a couple that were in this flight. They had the Das Wunderkind also here as well. And but I am not a fan of rye beers in general. It's just something about it that dry component that rye tends to bring to a lot of things. But the beers. But this was a really great beer. I really enjoyed it, and I'm really jealous, of our friends at the Beerist that are there in Austin and get to drink, Jester King all the time, because this is really a great beer. And my SEDS rating for this was actually a 4 as well. So a body should really not make that sound. So really good beer. So what was your top pick there, Reverend Mark?
Well, my top pick, no doubt, hands down, was Evil Twin.
Wow.
The Imperial Biscotti Break.
You likes the boys from Denmark, eh?
It was
Jan and Johan making good beer in Denmark.
Well, it was very fresh here. I don't know. They must have really put it on, an overnight flight.
My name is Vin. I'm here to pump you up.
This was a wine strength, like a barley wine strength Imperial Stout. I mean, they all of them really are, but this was on the far end of the gravity spectrum, right at almost 12%.
Wow, that is definitely. That's why our tasting session was so good, because we had so many high gravity, beers in this flights as well.
Now, these were 3-ounce samplers, folks.
And we were drinking about 1 ounce each is about all I could tolerate.
Yeah.
Well, we've had some really great beer from Evil Twin, and I've actually picked up the Femme Fatale from our series, our sour beer. Shows that I really enjoyed so much, and I've really been very impressed with a lot of the beer from Evil Twin. Their biscotti break was in here as well, and really great beer as well. So I'm sorry, what was your rating on that beer before I move on to what I thought?
Well, it's
It was
a 5
as well. Well, cool. There were a lot of really good imperial stouts in all of these flights, and it's a good transition for me to talk about my top 3 as well here, because I actually picked an imperial stout as my number 2 pick. It wasn't one of the ones you picked, but it was the barrel aged Sump Coffee stout from Perennial out of St. Louis, Missouri. And just really a wonderful beer. And our friends from Dallas that were sitting behind us, this was one of their picks as well that they were enjoying. I'm usually not a fan of when you infuse flavors that, into some things. Like I'm not a fan of, coffee and stouts. I bore the fact of bourbon, porters and, things that you're infusing together, because basically, if the base beer is not good, I really think you can mask, some really crappy brewing with just infusing flavors. I mean, it's akin to somebody taking a latte and putting vanilla and then sprinkling cinnamon all over the coffee. Well, what's the coffee taste like? And I think the same thing can be done, in brewing as well. But with that said, I have to say, this was just a phenomenal beer. My tasting notes around this were, it was just yummy and thick. The only thing that was really wrong with this was the size of the sample. I would actually have enjoyed a full pint of this. It was so good.
But we had to drive up to Fort Collins.
Fort Collins right after this as well. So my suds rating for this is a 4. A body should really not make that sound. Really great beer. And I look forward to chasing that down and seeing if we can get some of that available to us, to come take back with us as well. Well, that sings around to my top pick out of our session at Hops and Pies, and that is, which by happenstance is also from Russian River. It's the Blind Pig, and it is their IPA. Again, I'd never had this beer before, and in fact, it wasn't a blind taste testing, but we were kind of sitting there with the tasting sheets and a whole bunch of tasters, in front of us. And even at times I had to count to say, well, I'm not really quite sure what that beer was. And I may have lost count, going through. But when I traced back and I'm like, I really like that beer. What was it? So I almost just caught this one blind as well. The thing I found myself talking about this was, it was not what I think of in a traditional IPA. The hops were more floral present, and I really thought that describing it as an IPA was not doing the beer justice. I really thought it was a really, really great beer. It was very well balanced. The floral hops coming off of it were just incredible. I really enjoyed this beer, and so I'm definitely in the hunt for more Russian River beers, apparently. My suds rating for Blind Pig Russian River is going to be 4 as well. Body should really not make that sound. Well, it was a really fun time there at Hops and Pies, and we really got to go through a lot of great beers through that session. I'm looking forward to a lot more beers in front of us through the next couple of days. How about you?
Yeah, definitely looking at going down the street here to the Great Divide at least once. Like to make it up to Avery, and there's just so many great choices and so little time.
Yeah, I agree. Well, there are definitely several things that we talked about in our previous show that we're on the hunt for as well. I still think this is the year of sour beers. How about you?
Yeah, it's obvious. I mean, of course, the Crooked Stave didn't make it into the main convention, but I'd say that their event that sort of cropped up, sort of ancillary, to this main convention, was formidable. I mean, it sold out in less than 30 minutes.
Yeah.
So the sour beer thing is definitely still sort of yet to peak.
Yeah. Well, listen, if you get to catch this episode today and you're definitely here at GABF, definitely watch our Twitter feed. Hopefully you'll catch us around town, get a chance to pick up a magical T-shirt from us as well. We'll actually try to record another show or two while we're here. Hopefully we'll get an audience participation segment in if we can arrange to get that. That would be a lot of fun. I know everybody really loves those. But we look forward to a lot more great things to talk about while we're here at GABF. For right now, I want to thank Reverend Mark for joining me.
Blessings.
I want to thank all our listeners for joining us once again, and hopefully you'll join us back for some more episodes. As a good old boy Mike, I'm going to ask you to keep on sipping.